right, some interesting perspectives that I think show that the kind of partnerships that we can foster are happening at multiple levels, from sort of data fusion between different missions, the way data are accessed and processed, and then the way the information is created and brought forth to a variety of end users along the value chain. So now I want to start by, I've invited each of the panelists, in addition to the presenters who are on stage, to provide a single slide with a little bit of biographical information about them. They're just going to have about a minute each to introduce who they are, where they come from, and what some of the perspectives that they have on some of the perspectives that they have on some of the priming questions that were centered around to them are really sort of what models are successful and what can really empower public-private partnership in this space.
All right, so I am Molly Brown. I have two hats. I work at the University of Maryland, because I love to say that, but I'm also the Chief Science Officer for 6th grade. We're a digital agriculture company working on the front lines, trying to figure out ways to get corporations to use satellite data within their business processes. So one way we're doing that, for example, is providing maize maps in the hardest places in the world to do maize crop mapping, such as in southern and eastern Africa, getting Syngenta and other organizations to use it to make decisions.
That's great. I loved it. Next up, we have Rhiannan Price from Maxar/Digital Globe.
Thanks, Alyssa. Hi, everybody. My name is Rhiannan Price, and I lead the Sustainable Development Practice at Maxar, formerly Digital Globe, and Radiant Solutions come together under a new brand. So I think many of you are probably familiar with Digital Globe and have probably used our imagery over the years. I think with Maxar, our new opportunity here is not only using, of course, electro-optical imagery, but also synthetic aperture radar imagery as well, from RadarSat-2 with MDA now in our family. And of course, we've got a dedicated focus on accelerating our work towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So my mandate, my team's mandate is about bringing together not only traditional stakeholders out of the public sector, but also really engaging private sector as well in terms of working towards the Sustainable Development Goals and how we can use our convening power and our technology to do so.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rhiannan. Why don't we have Sara Menker from Grow Intelligence next?
All right. My name is Sara Menker. I'm the founder and CEO of Grow Intelligence. We're an AI company that's focused on enhancing the world's understanding of global agriculture as a system, really across the entire value chain. And also we built, we're kind of a perfect example of PPP in an unnatural way, in the sense that we leverage a lot of publicly available data, a lot of publicly available research, and convert it into product by connecting the dots across multiple institutions, organizations, and languages. And we've built a predictive layer on top of that data that lets us quickly respond to any type of emergency that can come into the marketplace. So anything from policy-driven emergencies to climate, really across any commodity anywhere in the world. And so we're always actively working with corporations across the agricultural value chain. So anybody who's selling product to farmers or buying product from farmers, or intermediaries who are actively trading the market. But we're also actively always contributing back to the public ecosystem by publishing a lot of our methodology, a lot of our research, and getting feedback from industry, academia, and government in our process. And as I mentioned, we're always actively contributing, and one of the things that we're actually a new partnership that we're now getting ready to announce is one with Harvest, where it's a partnership where we're actually making our API available for researchers to leverage the data. So it's basically clean data that merges imagery alongside economic data, alongside market data, alongside anything that basically has anything to do with ag, to help researchers publish research faster, but also to collaborate actively on research together with others.
Thank you. And next up we have Professor Molly Jahn.
Good morning. I want to emphasize that a previous experience, my previous life, I was a plant breeder. And as a plant breeder, the way I was trained, we ended up with a variety that what turned out to be fabulous. I got the call saying it was an all-American variety, which is so great. I had one little brown packet of seed in my hands. And I had not ever thought about what it took to go from that one little brown packet of seed to high impact, and that happened to be delicata squash. So with that lesson in mind, I took some administrative jobs and then came back to science. And so part of the role I have played in this space is to say that whatever good behavior, whatever gains we are making in agriculture with regard to the implementation of technology or anything, reduce those gains, those benefits, reduce risk, and that has value. And so there are two major communities with which I interact and have had really very successful and important products from. First is the insurance sector. So for me, I was tapped by Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's is an interesting company because it manages a marketplace. So it really regulates underwriting marketplace. And as such, is a trendsetter. So Lloyd's approached me, and we've done actually 3 reports. The third, I'm very excited to say, will be announced tomorrow, will be launched tomorrow, on evolving risk in global food supply. So this tactic takes the work of harvest and delivers it to financial markets and also corporations, depending on the materials. Secondly, I want to mention that as public researchers, we are often incredibly limited, no matter how much equipment we have compared to the private sector. Our ability to handle vast amounts of data is very limited. And so, especially when we start dealing with markets. So to compensate for that, several years ago, I made a partnership with Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters has recently split into Thomson Reuters and Refinitiv. But through that partnership, we have been able to see the best data there are. We use their ICON platform, EIKON, which they gave to our large research team for free. And it's been a really important exchange for both sides. From the public side, it means that we make sure we are actually doing something that matters, and we're doing something new. So I think I'd say one thing here. Learn the intellectual property landscape. There's some very nice, slim, easy ways to handle IP. I was actually able to endow my position at Cornell with royalties from my varieties there. Let's see, I would emphasize the long-term nature of these relationships and the two-way quality of the relationships. And then public sector shouldn't forget that talent is a big commodity for the private sector. And we should make sure we're really thoughtful about how we hit that issue here. And I think the last point I'll make is in my experience, which is very extensive in these public-private partnerships, is that it really does get personal. It's really important to establish trust and to be very clear about the mutuality of the relationship. For me, these have been the most important way to work. So I'm glad to be bringing that expertise to partners.
Thanks a lot. And then we have Pierre, Sibiry, Traore.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm a product of the PPP. I was actually a scientist, and I still am with ICRISAT, and thanks to some funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we evolved a partnership where I embedded myself as a CG scientist inside the private sector. And as a consequence, I took the leadership of a new division we created inside a company called Manobi Africa on R&D, on digital agriculture. Manobi Africa is a digital ag company that started in 2003 out of Senegal, working on linking farmers to markets, but also intervening in a certain number of other sectors like water, utilities, distribution, sanitation, etc. And more recently, morphed into a holding out of Mauritius. In that company, we've developed recently a concept we call accelerant that focuses on the idea of digital applied to agriculture, because we recognize that digital will not solve everything, and EO will not answer all your problems. So one of the essential learnings that we build this approach on is to say that, especially in smallholder agriculture in Africa and elsewhere, the biggest part of your variability in yields is determined by variability in management, and a lot of that management cannot be observed from satellite. So we don't pretend that we are going to forecast yield at a plot level with a satellite, but we are committed to improve and reduce the costs of producing yield estimates at a parcel level using EO. And that's what we work on in various ways, and we've been pretty lucky to work as part of a project funded with the European Commission, the Nadira project, on nurturing Africa's digital revolution for agriculture, which has been awarded on the EU Innovation Radar, and where we essentially unpack the whole value chain for EO, involving banks, insurance, input supply, off-takers, farmer cooperatives, and the role that we see for ourselves as a value creation orchestrator. So it's a little bit, if you want value to be created in smallholder agriculture, it's not a solo, it's not a duet, it's a complex system where the expression of value for EO and other tools is far from direct, and especially as you go towards the end of the chain, the end user, the less direct it becomes.
And then the last panelist we have is Gerald.
Thank you very much. Gerald Masila is my name. I'm working with the Eastern African Grain Council, which is a membership organization for grain value chain stakeholders, covering the Eastern Africa region, 10 countries of the 6 in the EAGC, and then the neighboring countries of Zambia, Malawi, DRC, South Sudan, Ethiopia, coming to 10 countries, established in 2006 with a key objective of essentially facilitating trade. So we are really a trade entity. Now, being a membership organization and being a private sector organization, the one thing that brings all of these people together is that they are all investors, whether they are smallholder farmers, a trader, or a processor, they're investing. And in investing, you want to make a decision. And the decision you make that decision based on expectations. The expectations that if I go to the farm and get what I'll get, there will be a market, I'll get a return. Whether you're a trader, whether you're a processor. And so these expectations require a lot of information, a lot of looking forward, sort of trying to imagine how will the future be. Part of it is from historical information that you already know, experience, and so on and so forth. But then it's important that there is information for decisions to be made at a private level to buy or to sell. And so one of the things we do at EAGC as an organization in facilitating trade is that we have a number of interventions. One of them is directly getting trade to happen, and that's the GeoSolutions logo at the bottom there. Secondly, we do a lot of capacity building and training. We have our institute, the Grain Business Institute. And then we are very active in the policy space, essentially providing a voice to our members to engage with policymakers so that the policy decisions that are being taken really create an enabling environment and reduce risks at policy level as much as possible. And then for all this to happen, you need information. So the logo right in there is our market information system, where we do collect data from the market, cross-border trade data, particularly informal, but also we augment it with formal data, and also market price information, where price, we use it as a proxy because it's an indicator of how supply and demand is going. So we get this data and we give this information daily to our members through the Ratting website and through an SMS. How does the partnership then come in? It comes in particularly from one of the products we have in Ratting, and this is the food balance sheet. So we copied from the accounting field, and we also build on what FAO had done. It was that very big, complicated food balance sheet that has nutrition and calories there, kilojoules and everything there. But we simplified it. And so for us, we work with very, very few numbers. The first number is the stocks that you are carrying over from one period to the next. The second number, and most important, is the forecast, the harvest forecast. Then with that, we take out the projected post-harvest losses, and that gives you what is available to be consumed. And then you take out what is going into feed, into food, and all the kind of consumption, and you end up with a number which will either be a surplus number in a projected way when you pull it 3 months out, or you get into a deficit number. And it's this we work with the government so that action can be taken. So the challenge comes in getting the forecast, because most governments don't really go out to do field forecasting and collecting data. And so our partnership with NASA has allowed us to be able to get better data that goes into the forecast, which is really the supply chain part of the function. And this involves getting the figures correct so that people can decide. So what is the input in terms of how do we get these partnerships going? I thought about 3 things to share. The first one is the fact that when you get into a partnership and you get data, it's important that you acknowledge where you have gotten this data from. So referencing and acknowledging is very important. Secondly, the partnership, and this has been said before, why are we getting together and who is going to do what in terms of what we get to do and what message do we give out. And finally, to address problems in partnership, I thought of 3 R's. One is the issue of responsibility. Who has what responsibility? And here we are saying it has to be shared, and has been mentioned earlier, to the roles. And critically, the roles must be complementary, not competitive. And like we said earlier on, let's give credit on all the shared value that we get together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.